Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're unpacking a technology that, honestly, it sounds exactly like science fiction, right? But it is very much science fact. We're going to explore how quantum computers use the downright bizarre and fascinating laws of physics to perform specific calculations exponentially faster than classical computers. And I mean exponentially. It's not just a faster computer. It's a completely different kind of computing altogether.
Okay, let's dive right in. Picture a maze. When a classical computer, so think of your phone, your laptop, or your gaming PC, when it tries to solve that maze, it operates linearly. It basically has to try one single path at a time. It goes down a path, hits a dead end, backs all the way up, and starts over. Kind of tedious, right? But a quantum computer? Oh man, it essentially flows through every possible path in that maze at the exact same time, like water just flooding the whole thing at once.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with bits versus qubits, then we'll dive into superposition and entanglement, look at how quantum gates work, explore some real-world applications, and finally, we'll tackle the decoherence challenge.
All right, Section 1. Bits versus qubits, the building blocks.
Now, a classical bit is brilliantly simple. It's literally exactly like a light switch. It's strictly on, which represents a 1, or strictly off, representing a 0. It's always one or the other, absolutely never both. But a quantum bit, a qubit, you got to think of it more like a spinning coin. While that coin is spinning in the air, it isn't heads or it isn't tails yet, right? It exists as this blur of heads and tails simultaneously. It only becomes a definite 0 or 1 when you finally stop it to measure it.
Now, this whole spinning coin concept actually has a formal name in physics. It's called superposition. And this principle is the exact foundation that gives quantum computing its unbelievable speed. Now, you might be thinking, okay, a single qubit existing in multiple states simultaneously doesn't sound earth-shattering, but just wait until you see what happens when we start scaling this up. It gets crazy.
Which brings us to Section 2, quantum entanglement, the secret sauce.
The mathematical power here becomes undeniably clear. You can actually see the rule of 2 to the power of n playing out right in front of us. 1 qubit gives you 2 states. 2 qubits give you 4 states. 3 qubits give you 8. Meaning every single time you add a qubit, you literally double the machine's processing capabilities. It's wild. When you execute an operation on a quantum computer, you're essentially applying it to all of those simultaneous states at once.
So here's the crucial point. By the time you reach just 50 qubits, you are looking at roughly 1 quadrillion simultaneous possibilities baked right into the hardware. 1 quadrillion. That is a level of parallelism that classical computers simply cannot touch. There's no way. But hold on a second. Holding a quadrillion possibilities isn't actually enough to solve a problem on its own.
We also need entanglement. This is a quantum correlation where the state of one qubit is instantly linked to the others, even all the way across the chip. Without entanglement linking these qubits together, a quantum computer would honestly just be a standard machine with some added randomness. Entanglement is absolutely the secret sauce here. It creates these complex correlations that have absolutely no classical equivalent, and that's what allows algorithms to find the one correct answer hidden within that massive quadrillion-state haystack.
Moving on to Section 3. How quantum gates work. Reversible operations.
So, classical computers use basic logic gates, right? Things like and or not. Well, quantum computers use quantum gates. These are reversible transformations happening on a mathematical globe that we call a block sphere. For instance, the Hadamard gate, that's what throws a qubit into that spinning coin state we talked about earlier. The Pauli X gate acts kind of like a traditional NOT gate, just flipping states. And the CNOT gate, that's the one that creates that magical entanglement. By carefully arranging these specific gates, programmers can create some truly world-changing algorithms.
All right, Section 4. Real-world applications. Quantum superpowers.
First things first, we absolutely must be clear about something. Quantum computers are not faster at everything. They are highly specialized tools, meaning they are not going to be running your spreadsheets, your web browser, or your late-night gaming sessions anytime soon. Don't worry, your trusty everyday laptop is completely safe.
But for specific, complex tasks, oh, they are absolute monsters. Just to put their specific power into perspective, a classical computer would need billions of years, literally billions, to break standard 2048-bit RSA encryption. But a quantum computer running what's known as Shor's algorithm, it could finish that exact same task in mere hours.
And honestly, that brilliantly illustrates exactly why massive companies like Google and IBM are practically racing to achieve what's called quantum supremacy. These machines possess literal superpowers in some really high-value fields. I mean, they will absolutely revolutionize factoring and cryptography. They can use Grover's algorithm to search massive, unsorted databases with crazy quadratic speedups. They'll be able to simulate complex molecules to help us invent life-saving drugs or hyper-efficient batteries. They'll optimize global shipping logistics, and they could even radically speed up machine learning models. The potential is staggering.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5. The Decoherence Challenge, the engineering hurdle.
Now, the biggest hurdle keeping these quantum machines off our desks is something called decoherence. Because qubits are so incredibly sensitive, their quantum state is highly, highly fragile. If a qubit interacts with even a tiny environmental vibration, or just a slight change in temperature, or random electromagnetic noise, it loses its quantumness. It basically stops spinning, and the state collapses. That is exactly why these systems have to be kept heavily isolated and chilled to temperatures near absolute zero.
And fixing these constant errors, it's incredibly tough. Because of a strict rule in physics called the no-cloning theorem, we can't just copy a qubit's state to back it up. Measuring it destroys it instantly. Meaning we have to spread one single, stable logical qubit across thousands of super error-prone physical qubits. Think of it kind of like braiding a bunch of weak individual vines together to create one incredibly strong error-corrected rope. Right now, we build noisy intermediate-scale computers, but we're going to need millions of physical qubits to get truly fault-tolerant ones.
So at the end of the day, quantum computing is not magic. It's just beautifully applied physics. It's superposition, entanglement, and some extremely clever algorithms working together. While it will absolutely take years, or maybe even decades to build fully fault-tolerant versions of these machines, this technology is very real, and the progress we're making is accelerating every day. It will inevitably transform medicine, material science, and global digital security.
As we prepare for a future shaped by this incredible computing power and the unbreakable quantum networks that will inevitably have to follow it, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. If quantum computers can easily break the encryption guarding our current digital world, should we be deeply worried or incredibly excited for what comes next? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.